Hi, I'm Nick Palmisciano.
And I'm Matt Finney.
And this is the Bad News Network. Impeachment proceedings have turned into a real SCHIFF show. House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff has thrown out normal proceedings of impeachment inquiries in favor of something far more secretive. In fact, the democratic process has had Republicans so fired up that they're doing stupid shit, like trying to storm into secure areas like they're a bunch of angry college kids that are protesting whatever current day bullshit has them fired up so they can avoid class and act extremely self-important. Now, for the average person, it's not really clear what's happening right now for two critical reasons. First, impeachments are not very common and the process isn't well known. Second, literally everyone on both sides of the aisle is lying about how the process is supposed to work. The gold standard of protocol came during the Nixon administration. During that time, Congressman Peter Rodino put together a staff from both parties to run the impeachment process. That has absolutely not happened here. Then the entire House voted on the beginning of the impeachment inquiry. That has also not happened here. While there is no constitutional need for a House vote, the lack of vote has the whole thing feeling a lot less like a functioning government process and a lot more like a democratic witch hunt. There's literally no reason not to stage a vote other than to kind of give people cover in case they want to change their minds later. In the past, once an inquiry started, the minority was also given equal subpoena power. That has not happened here. The president's attorneys were always allowed to be in the investigation, even in the case of Nixon when it was done in secret. That has also not happened here. What makes this feel even more political is that while the meetings are held in a SCHIFF, a top secret area where there's supposed to be no media, cell phones, etc., lots of cell phone pictures of this proceeding have been leaked. Additionally, stories that specifically harm the president have been leaked by Democrats attending these proceedings. In contrast, the Nixon inquiry was airtight. The impeachment inquiry of President Clinton followed the Rodino principles almost to the letter. Now, I understand that there's a lot of frustration on the left, and many people are throwing up their hands and saying, I don't care, Trump breaks the rules all the time, what does it matter, let's just get this guy. And you can certainly take that approach, but if your core argument is that the president is unfit because he plays fast and easy with the rules in order to get what he wants, then maybe the right approach isn't to play fast and easy with the rules to get what you want. Because now, even though there is a lot of evidence that shows that at the very least the president has stepped over lines, he now has the ability to say this isn't a real inquiry, it's actually a partisan attack. So I'm left feeling, as I said at the beginning of this whole thing, that the Democrats are not actually trying to remove the president from office, but rather just weaken him as the elections come up. This is the kind of thing that people with poli-sci and public policy degrees that have spent their entire lives in Washington, D.C. dream up when the American people really just want Congress to do their job and come up to a conclusion one way or the other. If the president is guilty, the best way to show that is with a flawless, by-the-book, bipartisan inquiry and trial. If the evidence clearly shows guilt and then the Senate doesn't vote that way, that's going to have long-lasting negative effects on the Republican Party and those members involved. But with this approach right now, literally everyone gets an out. The current impeachment inquiry is not fair and is not following traditional due process. So, people are going to be able to argue that because the inquiry wasn't fair, they have no reason to vote along the lines of the evidence provided by the inquiry. So then, even if this thing ends up in the Senate, they can then point down to the vote for impeachment and say, we didn't have a fair inquiry, we then didn't have a fair vote, and how can we possibly vote against the president given the fact that there has been no due process this entire time? If you're a Democrat, you should be absolutely frustrated with the total incompetence on display here by the Democratic Party. If you're a Republican that doesn't care about the truth and just wants the president to beat this no matter what, then you've got a lot of reason to smirk right now. And if you're an American that's just tired of all these people, then most likely none of this surprises you and, hey, it's Friday.
Mark Zuckerberg, the social media titan, came under fire this week in Congress. He got grilled on his proposed cryptocurrency, Libra. Most of the scrutiny stems from the alleged election meddling in 2016. In a nutshell, nobody trusts Facebook. The currency in question, Libra, aims to decentralize monetary transactions from big banks. Honestly, I don't know what the big deal is. It's not like Facebook is this mega conglomerate with more power than most world governments. I don't see why we shouldn't let them control world currency. Zuckerberg, for his part, worries that if China were to develop blockchain technologies first, they would be somehow able to disrupt American dominance. Congress fears that Facebook would become a monopoly and seeks to reduce their power by breaking it up into separate companies. Zuckerberg does not want this to happen. He argued that the platform is already decentralized by putting the power into the hands of the people.
Trump declared in a speech this week that he's building a wall that really works, that you can't get over, in Colorado. For those of you that are not up to date on our current state lines, Colorado does not border Mexico. It does, however, border New Mexico, which we feel it is important to clarify is not new, nor is it part of Mexico.
This week, lawmakers en masse are considering a bill that would make it illegal to say the word bitch. If only we had a Bill of Rights that would protect our freedom of speech. We need to get on that. Anyways, a Democrat representative named Daniel Hunt from Dorchester Wait a second, he's from f***ing Dot? Bitch, are you kidding me? Dorchester what, California? His proposal would make it illegal for somebody to call another person a bitch, rolling up to $150 for the first offense, $200 for the second, and 6 months in prison for the third offense. Under this law, my mother would be doing life in prison. So why even put this forward, you ask? I mean, everyone's already bitching about it being unconstitutional. While Daniel acknowledged that his bitching probably wouldn't go anywhere, he felt it was his duty to put some bitches' desires forward as an example of how government should work. Still kind of a bitch move to represent one bitch of a constituent on a bitch hunt, isn't it? Maybe putting forward an incendiary proposal was just a career bitch he had to scratch. These days, who can tell? Bitch way is up or down in politics. I don't know, maybe I'm just being bitchy.
The entire Chinese orienteering team has been found guilty of cheating at this year's Military World Games. As such, they've been disqualified. Apparently, not only did they go to the course ahead of time and track out a small path to each of the points, but they were also getting help from plants in the spectator crowd. Not like tulips, but people that were planted there. The Chinese team appealed, but the International Orienteering Council rejected that appeal outright. The president of the IOF stated that this is the juiciest thing that's ever happened in the history of orienteering, and he's just excited to be part of all of the hullabaloo. He did, however, say that he and the Federation are looking to get orienteering back on the right path. China's official response was to invade Hong Kong.
Congresswoman Katie Hill is facing allegations that she had an inappropriate relationship with a staffer. The House Ethics Committee is following up on allegations surrounding photos of Hill, her husband, and the staffer doing not campaign stuff. In the photos, Hill can be seen doing a plethora of activities in her birthday suit, like smoking a bong and combing her side piece's hair. Concerns also arose about what people have described as a Nazi tattoo located on her below her belly button region. Hill has admitted to having the relationship but insists it happened before she got elected. She then pivoted to being the victim. She blamed her now ex-husband for being abusive. She also cited that she will begin an investigation into the people responsible for the allegations. Look, if there isn't a place for a bisexual congresswoman to engage in threesomes and inappropriate sexual activities with her staffers, is this even America anymore?
President Trump praised himself this week for his decision to pull all U.S. troops out of Syria. He further praised himself for lifting all sanctions against Turkey after they murdered a bunch of people and then stopped. This came after what the administration is calling a permanent ceasefire, mostly because everyone on the other side is now dead. Russian President Vladimir Putin and Turkish President Erdogan have come to an agreement that allows for the total withdrawal of all Kurdish and Syrian troops from the Turkish border. Trump cited that while all of his predecessors have previously talked about removing U.S. troops from the Middle East, he is the first president to actually do it. In unrelated news, the DoD just announced that we're going to be sending more troops to the Middle East.
In relatable stories, a Wichita, Kansas man died after incurring a fatal head injury. This injury happened as 36-year-old Chad Lee was riding in the passenger seat of his wife's Ford Focus. Apparently, she was arguing with him, and Chad decided that he would rather die than listen to another moment of her incessant bitching and threw himself out of the moving car. He died shortly after impact. His wife, however, argued that he actually died later on his way to the hospital.
North Korea announced a statement this week that says it hopes the United States acts wisely and courageously in coming up with a mutually beneficial denuclearization deal. The deal that North Korea envisions involves the United States pulling all of its anti-nuclear weapons technology and troops from Korea and allows Korea to keep working on nuclear bombs. We at BNN are not entirely sure that North Korea understands what denuclearization or mutually beneficial actually means.
Areas of Northern California and the Bay Area are preparing for blackouts this weekend. A number of fires have pushed thousands of residents out of their homes already. The power company PG&E has already conducted a number of outages to prevent starting any more fires. Investigations into previous wildfires revealed that a number was started by faulty company power equipment. The scheduled outages came as a reaction to projected offshore windstorms coming in this weekend. One PG&E spokesperson commented that these are dark times for our company and we've really been feeling the heat.
And finally, in Florida Man news, a Florida man made a hefty deposit this week. A South Florida man went on a Vaseline-slathered rampage. Reports flooded the police circuits that announced a Florida man was running through a mall naked, slathered in Vaseline, shouting to the winds that Elizabeth Warren was going to tax him to death. One woman stated, "It was bad enough to start with, but when the police arrived, all hell broke loose." According to the police, the greased man was impossible to pin down. Numerous officers attempted to subdue the slick sprinter, but he squirmed out of their grasp. After giving the fuzz the slip, Florida man sprinted into National Women's Clothing Store, where according to a cashier, he climbed onto the counter and dropped a fresh dump into the cash register. After pinching off a freshie, Florida man once again took off, and officers tried to wrestle him to the ground for a second time. One of the officers stated that he didn't feel he got paid enough to wrestle a greased man to the ground right after he had taken a fresh dump. Florida man squeezed free once again and somehow managed to ditch the heat. It appeared Florida man had emerged victorious until he was found passed out in a mattress store on a brand new mattress 45 minutes later. The mattress was later posted on eBay at a price of $10,000 and it was labeled Florida Man Vaseline Mattress. Florida man was placed under arrest. But just when you thought this story couldn't get more Florida, while the police were chasing Florida man number 1, Florida man number 2 reached into the dump-filled cash register and pulled out all the cash. We here at BNN salute you, Florida man, and we also have questions about why all the people in Florida seem to refer to dumps as fresh dumps. Is this some kind of measure of the quality of a dump? We here at BNN would like to know. And with that, I'm Nick Palmisano.
And I'm Matt Finney.
And this is the Bad News Network. Our news is at least as bad as the news you're getting already, and if there's one thing that Florida man taught us, never let shit get in the way of your dreams.